Good morning, video diary. This is my kitchen. This is one of the last times I had a meaningful dialogue with my son. I was making eggs over here, and he came around and walked behind my shoulder as I was cracking the eggs onto the skillet thing, and I was just about to break the yolks with the spatula when Forrest, just right over my shoulder, said, "No, Dad." Right here, right where I'm standing, just a few months ago. And there was so much in that, because it was like him telling me what he liked, what he wanted, and how he liked things, which was different than how I might like something. And discovering those things about my son was really great, because it's our differences that makes us interesting to each other, and not assume things about each other. And I can't make breakfast anymore without reliving that. At least I can't make eggs anymore without reliving that moment. And then thinking, like, why is that over? Why is my life with my son over? So he liked things that I didn't. He had his own preferences and appetites, and as much as we shared, we were different people. I like cannabis, he likes heroin. I was reading a couple things. One was Utilitarianism by John Stuart Mill, and the other one was Critique of Pure Reason by Immanuel Kant. But I will just put this out in this way. In utilitarianism, a person should feel free to find and express and develop even their happiness, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody or disrupt anybody. You should feel the freedom to swing your fist until it reaches somebody's nose. That's the idea, that your freedom to swing your fist stops at somebody's nose. I would suggest that your freedom stops at disrupting other people. Like, we know people that are loud, they're taking up too much room unnecessarily, or people that have too much stuff, and they'll take up 3 or 4 seats. Sometimes when they don't even have stuff, they'll do that just because they think it's okay. So there's an idea there anyway, that you can do whatever you want. Like, you should be able to go shoot all the heroin you want every day until you kill yourself, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. And you should have the total freedom to hurt yourself. You should be able to kill yourself if you want to, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. And then, of course, the question comes in, well, does it hurt somebody? Does using, making excuses, lying, becoming an addict, staying an addict, the equivocations, the avoidance, just the bullshit lies, the deception, the untruth of it all. The profound untruth as well, as whereas people are seeking some sort of knowledge or wisdom in that empty bowl. And that's insulting. That's insulting to people that work hard and do try to find the answers. That's why religion is insulting, because religions are insulting to any intelligent or thinking person. There's a lot of thinking and intelligent people that are mired in religion, but it's not their intelligence and their thinking that keeps them there. It's their need to believe that, their conditioning. So you should be free, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. And then the other thought from Kant is deontology, or duty, that we might owe each other. Like, do we owe each other some sort of honor, responsibility, collective energy, collective vision of ourselves, that you walk out your door and you somehow, it's important for all of us. It's more than that. It's like that we have a duty, some sort of inherited sense of helping the other, and not just doing for ourselves. That's how I take it. Like, do we owe each other anything? Or do we just get, plopped out here and it's every person for themselves? And we all know people that are just in it for themselves. We know people that appear to be in it for the collective good, but are just in it for themselves. We know people that are able to blend those things. Like, I'm into some things for myself. I'm into believing that everybody I come into contact with should be a little lighter, if I can. I will definitely walk by people that I feel are disrespecting themselves and not doing it, making any effort to change their circumstances, that are just full of shit. But that's hard to sometimes tease out. We want to believe good things about people. We want to believe good things about ourselves. We will go through great lengths. So Kant put the idea out that you cannot say something as a good thing unless you want it for everybody. It's the categorical imperative that if heroin is good, then everybody should take it. And you should will it on everyone. You should will heroin addiction onto every single person if you believe it to be a good thing. Yeah. I think that's a great tool. Both of those things. You know, those are schools of thought that were separated by a continent and time, and probably lots of people. But if you really look at both those things, you can synthesize them and say, I should be able to fulfill my own desires of myself. I suppose you have to ask yourself, do the things you desire, are the things that you desire desirable things? Because it's not always going to be so. The things you want, the things that are like theoretically or ostensibly good for you, are the battle that most of us addicts have to fight. You know, I want that, but I know it's going to kill me, or it's going to fuck up my family, or it's going to destroy my job or my community, or it's just going to make me full of lies and deceit, even to myself. What if nobody knows you're lying and full of shit but you? It still harms you. So every day I am struggling. I don't know if that's the right word. I'm outraged. I'm disgusted. I'm horrified. I'm saddened to a point that my being is kind of like a sponge that's fully wet with the sorrow I feel. My son, I thought he thought better. I thought he had better thoughts. And if he didn't, I believed I taught him to reach out. Get a second opinion. Ask a buddy. Ask a neighbor. Should I shoot up? Should I start shooting up again? What do you think? I've been thinking about this. I'm thinking about taking heroin again because I really, really miss it. And, you know, I just want to kind of get away from everything and reset. And I know there is a big danger. A lot of people are dying. And yes, it's a completely fabricated, unenlightened thing to do. There's no spiritual wisdom in shooting up in the highs of heroin. Junkies don't even remember. What would your neighbor say? What would your girlfriend say? What would your mother say? What would your good friends say? Unless they were junkies too, they might say, oh yeah, there's some really good shit in the next neighborhood because several people have died. Are those good references to your behavior? But if you ask, go ask a few people, what do you think about this idea I'm having? You will probably get some really good feedback. Of course, if you ask people that are just afraid for you and know that you're, just seeking confirmation, you have to be willing to accept the knowledge that maybe becoming a junkie, getting high every day, avoiding your life or your pain, referencing yourself off of your parents or your community, or your, if you're growing up in a place where you know that people are just full of shit. Trust me, adults are full of shit. Most of them do not deal with their issues. They do not deal with the growth that needs to happen. They'll find a place where they can just hum, and they'll hang there for the rest of their lives. And then they'll be like, oh my God, I thought there was more. That's what most people do. And that's why, there's all these books written by young people throughout the ages about like how they're going to rebel against the order of their parents, and because they see the typical sitting on your ass technique that people have used forever. It's what people do. It's not what I do, but that's a conscious choice, and it's something I exercise every single day, and it's cost me. Periods of time where I'd said, screw it, or I'm just going to like float or coast, or things are good enough, or you know what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is being lazy. It's like you don't have to change yourself. You don't have to improve yourself. You can get by in this life with doing extremely little and just consuming and complaining. But you could go the other direction. And that's like that beautiful freedom. That beautiful freedom. I keep hearing that heroin addicts, that junkies didn't have a choice. That it's a disease that didn't have any choice in the matter. I don't believe it. I believe that your addiction, just like my addiction, causes us to behave, to propel ourselves towards that thing, but not that we have zero choice. It's not like that. In fact, you're the only one. Forrest was the only one who had any power, who had any ability. Just like I was the only addict in my addiction stories that had any. I'm the one who did it. Nothing happened. I just got sick of myself, of lying to myself, which is the worst thing you can do. If you lie to somebody else, theoretically, or the idea is that you're either trying to make something happen for yourself, or you're obscuring information to improve your position in that moment, or whatever your motivations are. But lying to yourself, what an asinine thing to do. What a fatal thing to do. So I'm definitely a utilitarian. I want to maximize my pleasure in my life. I want to get everything out of this life. When I die, if it happens today or in 100 years, I want to be able to say I did everything I could. Maybe not everything I wanted, but everything I could that I could do, that I didn't have to blame anybody else for. And I would suggest that 80-90% of your satisfaction lies in that realm. So only a very small percentage lies in the happiness that you will get being referenced from the outside in. We all think we're going to be happy when people are pointing at us and going, oh, that's her, that's him, they're great. It's inside of us. There's a lot of very famous and talented people who died horrible, low self-esteem, drug-induced, terrible deaths, like John Belushi, and people that fame did not secure their own internal compass. So I do feel that Forrest maximized his pleasure, but completely disregarded that idea of how we interrelate and need each other not to do this kind of awful bullshit. This is just awful bullshit. How good can heroin be to create this kind of pain? Meaningless pain. Don't try to find meaning in this.